Hey there, YouTube land. It's Big Dave. We're Sunday, June 2nd, I think. I don't even know what day it is. I'm not sure. We're talking about measuring the length of your mouthpiece and does it matter and all that blah blah stuff. Okay? So I was just getting on a little rant about, somebody making some kind of a judgment about something I said or I did. It's a joke because what I was talking about anyway is this is back in the 70s, so this isn't recently, This is back then. It's 1979 or so. I was trying to cut stainless steel Berg Larsens, and it wasn't. You couldn't cut them, and I'm not going to talk about that here right now. It's a whole process that I was using at the time, and I had special tools, and I don't have them anymore. And I had a lot of special stuff. I even had a desk that had a piece of glass on it that was this thick, and it was absolutely flat. So I wasn't using a stone or anything. I had a whole desk where I could measure mouthpieces almost on the whole desk. And almost anywhere I put a mouthpiece, it was flat. So it was an architect's desk that my father helped me get from somebody way back then. And I could use it for other stuff too, drawing and different things. But I could lay a mouthpiece on it almost anywhere. I could tape down a piece of, cinder paper or whatever and pull the mouthpiece over for a longer distance. I could put a big long piece on and I could make one big swipe without doing it. So those were methods, that we were able to figure out for ourselves back then because we didn't have the ability to run and get information from all over the place. So we had to kind of seek it out. All right. Anyway. So getting back to this length of the mouthpiece. What do you do once you have this information? So you have your measurements. Excuse me. I don't know what this reading is. Let me see. The reading on the thickest one is 9. Which is about typical if you're going to use like a 30 or 35 feeler gauge. If you don't understand where the measurements are and you don't plot out the curve and you don't know exactly precisely what these are, it's kind of hard to plot a curve. And what we mean by plotting a curve is you have different feeler gauges and there are different measurements when you put them underneath the mouthpiece. So then you have your curve. You can do this on a computer too. You might have seen somebody make videos of this on a computer. So there's your mouthpiece. Here's your curve. And you start at a certain point and you start to plot your curve. So I know the first one was 23 millimeters. I know the second one that I measured was 18. And I know the other one I just did here was 9. Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Using the tools that I just did, which is a simple receipt, a piece of paper, and this, my curve plotted out pretty evenly here, By the way, these two will be closer to each other in realistic. Okay, if I was to actually do this, I'm going to cross out the 18 and move it. Just hang on a second. See, it would really plot out like this. Here's the 23, here's the 18, and the this was 9, which was more towards the tip. Okay, so what I'm missing is those in-between readings, but there would be like another 2 readings in here if I used all my gauges, and then to measure the tip. I have other ones too. If you're working on really big mouthpieces and you want to know how to measure the curve going towards the end, there's devices that are not necessarily related to mouthpieces that you can find that will help you as long as you know what the measurements are of those pieces. You might have to measure them with a micrometer and it would tell you exactly how thick they are. One such thing is what used to be a carburetor plate. I went to a racing shop and I got carburetor plates, especially I had one big one. And then I had a mounting bracket that was for something. I don't know what. And it had a machined surface on it. And I had a machinist, because in those days I didn't have that kind of micrometer. I had a machinist measure it across for me, and he told me that it was almost straight across, you know, and that what the measurements were on that thing. And the reading was pretty big. So if I was working on a big mouthpiece, like say a 130 or 150, like a Berg Larson, or even auto links. Sometimes people wanted big auto links, so they would buy a 10 or bigger, and we would open them up some if there was room, you know, unless you wanted to tap them and all that stuff. It gets involved. But anyway, so we would use that carburetor plate or this other machine piece that I have to check, just like a feeler gauge on the end, to see what the distance was, if it was straight across, because we might have to adjust one side. But after a while, it gets so big on the end that you can't use regular feeler gauges. You have to use something else. So we used to have special things that were made up to do that. Anyway, so with these three little simple things, you can at least get an idea. Your first two readings from the receipt and the index card are going to be closer together. Then you're going to have a space, like I drew this picture. Then you're going to have more of a space because you don't have the in-between things. And then you measure with your whatever you're using. Some people use you can use a credit card or bank card kind of thing. But, you know, I don't like to do that because I don't like plastic. It has a funny kind of a feel to it, and it doesn't fit. I'd rather use a cardboard or a piece of paper because I can feel it click or snap underneath the facing when I put it underneath. And let me just show you another thing when you go to the bigger openings. Not that this is a big opening, because it's not. It's a 105. Stay there. Sorry. You know, I have the sophisticated equipment. See, when you take this and you just, I'm going to see if this side, if it shows up better. When I put this under here, right, I'm just going to use my one finger and just ride it back and forth so I can feel it click on each side. And then I might go to the other side just to see, feel it click. If you want to, you know, balance a mouthpiece, sometimes all you're going to do is just see, you're not going to necessarily change the measurements from what they are right now. You just want to kind of see if it's straight or not, or if it's close to straight. I can do that with these cards. I don't need all that sophisticated equipment. I could just do this and feel it and change it to the other side if I'm not happy. And it gives me an idea right away. I know what's going on. I don't have to have a whole big, you know, shebang of equipment to do that. So anyway, there it is. There's my rant about length. Numbers, I don't know. On a tenor mouthpiece, 90% of what I worked on over the years was tenor mouthpieces. 23, this is 23. This is from one of the top facers anywhere around. I have mouthpieces that are done by different people that I have measurements from. I take my measurements and keep them in a little book. So this mouthpiece was redone by a very top refacer. I'm not going to talk about who or what or anything like that. Somebody that I have great respect for. And I purchased this from them. And it was also redone earlier by another very top refacer years ago. So this is like a treasure because it was done by two different people that are both, you know, excellent, who I consider to be excellent refacers. 22 to 24 is like normal for a tenor mouthpiece. If it's too much short, and if you double the number to 44 and 46, 48, that's half millimeters. Some of the gauges read in half millimeters. I have no idea why they did that. The old clarinet mouthpieces used to be in 0.5 millimeters. If you look at a Van Doren, it usually doesn't tell you the regular tip. It tells you the tip in metric. You have to convert it to inches. Does that make sense? Okay. So now everybody can start sending arrows with flames on them. He's talked about measuring a mouthpiece with a receipt. Can you imagine measuring a mouthpiece with a receipt? I lost this receipt, by the way. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in here. It went missing. It disappeared. Where in the world is my receipt? I lost it. Oh well. Okay, that's it. So, that's the end. Have a good Sunday. I hope you learned something, or if you didn't learn anything, then you wasted your time, right? And I wasted my time. But that was a good question about the length. You know, if it's too short, especially on the alto mouthpiece, you can get away with a little shorter on the alto mouthpiece. The old Brillhards used to be short. You know, you want something a little bit medium ML. Long facings, like anything extreme, are problematic in some ways. And sometimes you have to get harder reeds to play long facings because they want to close right away. There's not enough resistance or spring on there to do it. So this is a little bit unconventional, but you know, you could always figure something out. At least it gives you an idea of what you're dealing with, you know, as you plot along and see if you're if it's straight or whatever. The length is the big thing. The length, how long is it? Use the receipt or something thin. Gives you a basic idea. That's all you need to know. And it's very accurate. There's nothing that's in. If I took my tools out and measured it, it's going to be about the same thing exactly, almost. Okay. Have a good Sunday. Go out, enjoy the weather, and that's it. We'll talk soon.